So, Kitty, what have you thought about all the bees on the deck? What do you think about the bees? You want a piece of lettuce? We didn't even say hello. Oh my gosh, off she goes. Look at that. Takes the lettuce. Hello, everybody. This is Robbie from Southern California. Sun is going down, so a lot of the hummingbirds are feeding off the other feeders right now. I am doing a bee update. Look at this. I've got all kinds of feeders out. I've done the one and showed you the Dollar Trees, or in the dollar store, 99-cent store. That feeder is the best. The bees cannot get into the feeder. Look, they've emptied that. This one should be long retired, but I actually wrapped some wire around there to make the hanger because the top broke off. That's usually the first thing that breaks is the top. And I made a hanger, and for now it's okay. Bottom is still good. Then I've got other feeders I made. They love the feeders, the Blue Bunny ones. It doesn't have to be Blue Bunny. You can use any container you want. So I've been putting that out today, and like I said, the bees are just collecting. What's happening is the report says we're going to have a really big Santa Ana condition coming on the end of this week. I told you the bees know, which means it's going to be super dry. It's going to be dry and hot. And because of that, let me step back because I know a lot of the hummingbirds took off and they went into the trees. Because of that, the bees have been going nuts trying to make sure that they gather enough food and water for their hives. So I put out a few different feeders. Here come the hummingbirds because I've stepped back and they're feeding off my kitchen window, and I'll show you that. I don't know if you can see, but they're in the tree. They're all over. I mean, they're all over. There's hundreds and hundreds, and if I swing you this way slowly, like I said, the sun is going down, you might be able to see them in the trees, but they're all over, and they're feeding as fast as they can. But I wanted to show you this, and they're feeding in the citrus tree here. Isn't that cool? I should have done this before the sun dropped. That is an old masonry style feeder. It's a soft plastic. I'll zoom in. It's a very pretty feeder. It's probably going to be retired fairly quick now. It's a softer plastic. The ones that I'm using generally are a hard plastic, and I've never had this happen before, but I have done research. See the bees on the bottom? See the red flowers? Those red flowers are bee guards. The bees cannot feed on through the red flowers. The hole is small. They cannot reach the nectar. Guess what? Not all plastic is created equal. I watched 2 worker bees work on that for hours yesterday, and I watched out my kitchen window. I can step over here and I'll show you my kitchen window because I thought this was really interesting. There's the kitchen window. Oh, they emptied that one. I got to go fill that. I think I've made a couple gallons already of food. They drank a half a gallon in a matter of 2 hours. I couldn't believe it, and I had to fill it. I watched out my kitchen window, and I'll show you from my kitchen window. And they worked and worked and worked, and I called Gary this morning, and I said, look at this. It's covered in bees. You know what they did? They chewed a hole. Bees cannot chew through cement, but bees can chew through certain plastic. That plastic base, they figured out, was soft enough for them to chew tiny holes and be able to get to the nectar. It's barely really dripping. I don't even think it's dripping, but they've made holes in that feeder, those bees, so they can feed and get the nectar they wanted. Now, I did come over here and put a plate out here with some marbles and a rock, and they have been emptying this and working it, but the bees prefer that feeder. Now, what's really cute is the hummingbirds, as you just saw come, are feeding off of the other side. That particular feeder has got 4 flowers on it. 2 on one side, which is the side facing us right now, and 2 on the other. It's this side facing me where you see them, and they're going to start to disappear because the bees will go in as soon as, they navigate by the sun, so they're getting ready to all leave. The bees have made holes on this side, but not the other side. And on the other side, the hummingbirds have been feeding all day because it was full earlier. And on this side, the bees have been gathering the nectar to bring back to their hive, which is Gary's hive, because he followed them. He actually said that there are 3 routes. I'll have to get more information from him on that, but he told me, he came out here, there are 3 routes. He knows that one set of bees that have been feeding on that have been going across, there's Gary's garden, and they've been going across to that hillside over there where he's got his bees. Pretty much where you see the big tree, the big green tree, that's where his bees are, underneath, just on the other side of that. So they are going there, and see, the hummingbirds are still feeding. The bees have their side and the hummingbirds have their side. So they've been going that route, and apparently they're going 2 other routes. So he knows for a fact that it's not all his bees, but it is also his bees. And the place is now covered in hummingbirds. I'll step back so you can see them. And I thought that was interesting enough to share, that the bees do chew through plastic. I've never had them chew through any of the feeders you see. And some of them, the one in the back that the hummingbirds are feeding on, where I've got the tray, there's 3 of them over there right now, hummingbirds. That's an old one. It's a little bit harder plastic. They've never chewed through any of the other feeders, any of them. This is an old window one that I hung up here. These are the ones from the dollar store. This is the one I made. The ice cream containers, they've never chewed through those. That's a favorite of the hummingbirds. All the ones I've made, they've never chewed through them. All the ones I've bought, they've never chewed through them. I don't know anything about this particular feeder. All I can tell you is I thought it was attractive. It was really pretty. I bought it, maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little longer, at the Salvation Army. It still has the tag on it for 99 cents. I put it out when I bought it. This is before I had this many hummingbirds. They wouldn't even look at it. They didn't like the color. They didn't know what it was. And I figured I'm wasting nectar and time. So I put it away. This is the first time in 10 years I've taken it out. I've cleaned it up, washed it, put it out, and the bees chewed through it. There was no holes. It was perfect, but they found out that they can work that particular plastic and be able to make small, tiny, pricked holes enough to just draw the nectar out. I thought that would be enough by putting a bowl there, because as you can see, look at all the hummingbirds. The hummingbirds are not afraid of bees. They're annoyed by the bees, and the bees annoy them. It goes back and forth. Bees are annoyed by the hummingbirds, and the hummingbirds are annoyed by the bees. The bees are still trying to get into some of the other hummingbird feeders, but they really can't. But they'll try. They'll check it out and they'll try. Look at the hummingbird here trying to get past the bee. Isn't that something? Oh, he did. He is feeding with the bee. That is amazing. Let's take a look at that. With the bee trying to get nectar. So that shows you that the hummingbirds are not afraid of the bees. Bees do not attack hummingbirds. Look at this. You and I are seeing it first. Usually they leave, but this little guy is determined enough to say, that's my feeder, and get those bees out of here. They can't reach it, but they're trying. And so that was it. I wanted to share that with you. I thought it was fascinating. The bowl did work. The bees did start going to that bowl today, and they have emptied it already. I figured I wanted to keep the bees on the same path, since they were, I understand that they're looking for food. This was the path that the bees were taking wherever they're coming from, whichever hives, and that they would find the bowl that's sitting there in the corner with the rock and the marbles in it, and that they would use that. And they did. They did, but after they finished prepping their hole on the other one, most of them have been using that one. And you know what? That's fine. It's on an old flagpole. It's out of my way. They're not bothering me. I can come on my deck and work on my garden here, and I don't have to worry about the bees flying into me or bothering me. And the hummingbirds didn't have to deal with the bees that much. I have got, I don't know, a couple dozen now, more than that, feeders out all over. I just had to put feeders everywhere in case the bees were bothering the hummingbirds, but that was really amazing that you and I got to watch a bee and a hummingbird feed together, or attempt to feed out of that feeder. They left already because they couldn't get in it, but they tried. But that hummingbird just pushed that bee over and said, I'm going to feed anyways, while that bee was trying. I will have to admit that that is one of their favorite feeders, the ice cream containers. I think they like sitting there. They can see each other. They don't fight. Really, they're very, very happy on those ice cream containers. I think they just like it because they can see. They must feel safe, and they push each other around a little bit, but no major fighting. Just a little squabble. I mean, they're all going to squabble because they have a seat they want to sit on. But look at that. Isn't that cute? This is amazing. I'm going to go fill the feeders that are empty before the sun goes down. I've got dozens of hummingbirds already around me, and they're going back in the tree, but I thought I would share with you. So, do bees chew? Yes! And this is the first time that I've ever seen them chew one of my hummingbird feeders. That is absolutely amazing. So with that, I just wanted to share that. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was something funny to see. That feeder will be retired. Hopefully, once the Santa Ana's, that condition goes through, the bees will go back to a normal life, but they're really trying to store as much food and water, whatever they're doing in their hives, to have enough food for the hot weather. They're calling for fire conditions starting this weekend, and that's what I was telling you at the other video I put up. These creatures know more than us. And those bees had a reason that they were attacking all the feeders and trying to desperately get sugar, food, and water. And that's because the weather condition is changing. Isn't that cute? I don't know if you saw it. The hummingbird is feeding on my tomato flowers. And then they're back. Oh, this is amazing. And this is what happens when I work in my garden. I'll be standing here. I'm literally feet from all these guys working in my garden. And these hummingbirds are all over me. Sometimes I think it's a bumblebee buzzing on my head. They'll actually touch my head. Isn't that cute? Look at the ice cream containers. They absolutely love those. Ooh, I just saw a hummingbird just knock a bee over, like, go away. So do the bees bother the hummingbirds? Yeah, they don't. They're annoyed by them, but I've never seen one get stung. I've never found the hummingbird dead on the ground from a bee. It's more of an annoyance. They just don't want to deal with it. Now, I don't blame them. All right. Well, I better get any of these that are empty. I see one feeder that's almost empty there. And the one in the back is not quite empty. They're still feeding from it. I need to check the ones out my kitchen windows, and the ones in the garden are pretty full. So I better make sure all of them are full. And like I said, the bees are going to disappear real soon. The sun has now dropped over the horizon. And as soon as the sun drops, the bees pretty much disappear. And now the hummingbirds will feed until it gets a little darker, and then they'll take off and go into the trees and go to sleep for the night. So with that, have a wonderful day. Wanted to share with you, bees can chew through certain hummingbird feeders. So if you feel that the base of the hummingbird feeder is a soft plastic, not necessarily the flowers, but the base of the feeder is soft. This is the part I'm talking about right here. That's where they can chew a hole through to feed on it. If it's a hard plastic, I've never personally had them ever do it. But that particular one back there, that blue one, is a soft plastic. And they did make holes in it big enough for them to pull small amounts of hummingbird food through. Have a great day. I got to get back and give these birds some more food to keep these full. My goodness, I don't know how much I've made today, but I better go get them full now, topped up, so they can all be topped up for the evening. Have a great day, and don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye, everybody.